Sharing. Boom. All right. This is TradingView for my newer people. This is the platform that I like to use. TradingView is very robust, has a lot of different parts, functions, and features that help us trade, especially for the style of trading that we do. We like, I think we're more with swing trading, but we also day trade from time to time as well. And I'm just normally we would do an indicator breakdown, but we've been moving away from that. I'll do a quick one, 5 to 10 minutes or less, just to tell you what each indicator is. And then if you're new, if you've never seen these indicators before and you need a breakdown or a run through of that, we do have some videos that we've recorded in the past that I can just send to you, and it'll give you the detailed breakdown for all of the for everything on the screen. It'll make it easy for you. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to touch on each one and keep it moving. All right. RSI is at the top right here. This stands for the relative strength index. Pretty much this is a gauge on if the stock is hot or cold. In the stock market, what you want to do if you're swing trading, and a swing trade is when you buy low, sell high, what you want to do is buy a stock that is warm. So warm, this number, if the stock is warm, it's going to be between 45 and 55 pointing up. That's where you want this indicator to be. If it's a little higher than 55, you may have to check your other indicators. Right now, this indicator is at 64. So again, it's higher than our 55. So again, the other indicators will come into play. But this indicator, again, is going to tell you if the stock is being overbought or underbought, right? Overbought is going to be 70, underbought 30. Cool. Simple indicator. No tricks, no magic. No questions, correct? You check the chat real quick. Boom, no questions. All right.
I'm sorry, I have questions about it.
Oh, go
Okay,
ahead.
so for the RSI, are you determining what the threshold is? So are you determining that 50 is being overbought, or if it's 30? Are you determining that, or it determines it you're on its own?
Yeah, so the number determines that for us, right? So 70, 70 at the top is overbought, is being bought up too much. 30 at the bottom is oversold, is being sold too much. You want it right in the middle, but you also want it pointing up. That's one part that I left out. I apologize. You want this tail end of the RSI to be pointing in the upwards direction to show upwards momentum. So 45 to 55 pointing up is a green check mark for this. Does that help?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, let's keep moving. All right, body of the chart. So which indicator do I want to talk about first? Let's talk about the MA ribbon real quick. The MA ribbon, which is these 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the side of my screen. These are the colors and setup for them. Really simple. MA ribbon stands for moving average ribbon. The moving average is telling you what the stock can, or I won't say can or can't, but what the stock is about to do in correspondence to where the different moving averages are. So you see that I have 4. A lot of people like to use 2, some use 3. I like to use 4 because when I'm using 4, the only thing I have to focus on is this one driving. I call it my driving line. This 20-day moving average, right? Oh, you're not on the daily. 1 second, you're on the week. Move to the day. There we go. All right. The yellow line is what I pay attention to the most when I'm looking at my trade setups. So you do have, if you look at the chart, you have these 4 lines. Pay attention to the goal line, because when you have these indicators stacked on top of each other in chronological order from least to greatest, you got 20, 50, 100, 200 stacked on top of each other. That's a trend of a bullish sign, right? If you look really quick here, where you have the candles, you have the stock just surging, right? The stock is down here at about 440, and it's just bouncing only off of that yellow line. Again, that yellow line is the 20-day moving average. That's my driving line. And also my moving averages are stacked in chronological order from least to greatest: 20, 50, 100, 200. How do I know? They're color coded, and you can change the colors of your moving averages. Some people don't like the fact that they got burnt orange close to red. I don't know. I've been using this for years, so I'm kind of used to it. But if you want to separate your if you want to go ahead and separate your moving averages based on color, go ahead. Just make sure you know where that 20 MA is at. And again, you want the 20 MA on top of everything as your driving line. So this is what happens when you have them on top of each other in chronological order. You have the candles literally just bouncing off that 20-day moving average to take you to the upside. So when you have a situation like that happening, it's easy to place trades when the stock goes below the 20. You can see here, this is an easy trade. We had 2 red days to where the stock was going down. It's below its 20, but guess what? We still have the that chronological order that we're maintaining, and then it came right back up above with a strong green candle right here. That's good money from that pullback. And then we had another here, 3 red candles that took us down below the 20 MA. You could have bought in right here and then looked at 2 strong green candles to the upside. Same thing right here, giant red candle taking you down close to the 20 MA, but we're still in that same formation. 2 green candles bounce to the upside. I mean, and I can keep repeating myself. 2 red candles down to the 20, an extreme jump, and that even a gap was created right here between these 2 candles. So again, a lot of money being made there as well. I mean, there's multiple examples along that line. And then once you have the 20 dive underneath, you want to watch out for the death cross, because that means that the stock could be going down. If you're already, let's say if you bought the stock here at 468, you took it all the way up here to 520, and then you saw your 20-day moving average go underneath your 50, so they're not in that chronological order, then it's probably safer to just go ahead and take profit. I mean, you already got in somewhere back here, so you're already in profit. Take profit, wait to see what happens, and then once that 20 resurfaces, it gets back above that 50, it puts us back in that chronological order, 20, 50, 100, 200, boom, the same thing starts to happen again, to where you got candles taking you below the 20, money being made when it bounces right back up. A candle taking you below, a bounce right back up, then it continues to run. In this area, it came in contact with the 20, it ran again, right? So, and it keeps happening. We just had the 20 dip below the 50 again. It took us down, and then it resurfaced, and then it took us right back to the upside, right? So moving averages are good in that way. If it's hard for you to start off with 4, just use 2. You don't need the 100 and 200. If it's too much, you can use the 20 and the 50, because the 20 and the 50 are going to interact more than the 100 and 200. And I think this is just easier to keep your eyes on than 4 if you're not good with 4. But yeah, if you need more training on using the moving averages and watching them, again, that's another perk of the Discord. We can set up a one-on-one, and we can talk about what would be the best setup for you. All right, let's keep it moving. VRVP, cheat code of an indicator. If you can learn how to use this, this is one of the most cheatingest indicators that you can get. The reason why I'm saying it is because this indicator literally tells you where people are planning to buy and sell it, right? It's telling you where there's a lot of buy and sell volume. And again, volume is just the amount of transactions that are happening. So the VRVP stands for, let me get you the, here it goes right here. It stands for the visible range volume profile. So let's break that down. The visible range is just what's visible on the screen. So the visible range of the VRVP is pretty much just saying from this from the most visible candle. So let's just take this candle. Let me move it up a little bit. All right, this green candle on the far left, all the way to this green candle that printed Friday, is giving, this is the visible range, and it's giving you the volume profile. So that's the VR and the VRVP, visible range, how many candles you have on the screen, and then volume profile is what type of volume are you going to be seeing at different price points, right? So when you look at these different bars, they're actually called nodes. You see this blue and yellow. So the blue and yellow actually represent the type of volume at certain levels. So if you have more blue, that means you have more up volume, which means that up volume is just means that you have more buys at that price. And if you have more yellow volume, which is down volume, that means you have more sales. So let's show how this will work. When you look at this area here at 560, you can see that the stock ran hot, it hit around 560 and then it peeled all the way back down to 513. It ran hot again, stuck right around 560 and peeled off again, and then it ran hot again. And even at 560 on this third swing to the upside, it still had some trouble before it broke through. And then it makes sense when you look at the VRVP, because there's a lot of sales right here around that 560 line. If I hover over, you can see right now we have 27 million down, which that's 27 million selling volume versus 17 million up, which that 17 million up, of course, is buy volume. So there's more sales than buys at that price level. Again, if you can get this under your belt, again, it is a complete cheat code. And the good thing about it is that it adjusts based on how many candles you have. So if you want to do this, you give it a second, it's going to adjust. Yep, you can see that it now adjusts. So it's still giving you the same volume profile, but it's giving you the volume, it's giving you the amount of buys and sells for how many candles that you have on the screen. So we can keep scrunching it up and it's just going to keep adjusting, right? And then you can also zoom back in and give it some time. It's going to adjust as well. So pretty useful tool. It's kind of hard to get used to it at first, but it's extremely useful. And for people who like to trade volume, I think that could be a good replacement for the normal volume indicator at the bottom of the screen. Any questions on the VRVP? Cool. All right, let's keep it moving. Let me check the chat. All right, nothing in the chat. All right. So that's the VRVP, that's the MA ribbon. And the last two should be quick. They're pretty simple. This is the MACD. So this is the MACD stands for moving average convergence divergence. This indicator is simply telling you what type of pressure is being applied to the stock. So if the blue line is on top, that means that buying pressure is being applied. If the red line is on top, that means selling pressure is being applied. So the reason why this is important is because you want to know the trend of the stock. If you want to know if Microsoft is trending up, check the MACD, right? Is Microsoft trending up on the day? Is it trending up on the week? Is it trending up on the month? You can check the MACD. And if this blue line is on top of the red line, that means that it's going to be, there's going to be buying pressure applied to the stock. And when you apply buying pressure to a stock, it's going to want to go up. When you apply selling pressure to a stock, the pressure to sell is going to want to go down. So for instance, here we have this red line on top, selling off. It wants to go down. This area, we have the blue line on top, and we also have the blue line on top in this area. It wants to go up. If you have a hard time figuring out which line is on top, that's fine. They have this chart, this histogram right behind the lines, and this histogram is presenting the same information with a little bit more detail. So if it's green, that means that the buying pressure is being applied. If it is red, that means that the selling pressure is being applied. And what you need to pay attention to the most is what's at the far right. So right now we have buying pressure being applied. We can tell because the blue is on top, and we also have green on our histogram. If this was red, you would see the red line on top, and then that means that the pressure to sell the stock is being applied, right? So if you ever want to know, like, okay, which way is it trending, check the histogram, check the lines. It's only going to tell you buying or selling. That's all you need to know. Any questions?
I'm good, yeah.
You got a question, David?
No, I'm good, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Simple enough. Stochastics, RSI. So if the MACD is your trend indicator, the stochastics is your momentum, right? So the stochastics is another form of an RSI, but it's a little bit more sensitive. You can see if you compare the two, this one is a little bit slower as far as, and when I say slower, as far as where it hits at the top and bottom of its ranges, right? You can see that we have a couple touches along the top. We have a few touches along the bottom. But if you look at these stochastics, I scrunch it up. Look at how many touches you have on the top and bottom. It frequents the top and bottom of the indicator set because it is really sensitive. The best way to use this, and I call it my secondary indicator because some people may choose not to use it, and that's fine. But for me, in the way that I trade, I think that is, I think it's a necessary piece, especially if you're looking at entries and exits on swing trades. So the way that this indicator works, it works similarly to the normal RSI. It has a range, 20 at the bottom, 80 at the top. And what you want to pay attention to is the different levels that it can hit. So if you can commit these levels to memory, 0, 20, 50, 80, 100, that's where the stochastics likes to check in at. So again, you're going to see a lot of 100s. You're going to see a lot of zeros. Ideally, what you want to see, if you want a stock to go up, you want your stochastics to be low, not 0, because sometimes you'll get a 0 stochastics and it'll stay down there. What you want is a stochastics that's pointing up and around 20. If it's pointing up and it's around 20, your next target is 50, 80, 100, right? So, and the reason why you want the RSI, the stochastics RSI that low is because this is a momentum indicator. So the more that it is moving up, that momentum is increasing and increasing and increasing until it pegs out at 100. And then now the momentum is slowed. Once it hits 100, can the stock still go up? Yes, but the momentum for that time frame is now being slow and it's now going to need to reset, which means it's going to need to pull back down from 100 like a spring, right? And load up for another move back up to the upside. So it's going to go to 100. It's going to cool off, pull all the way back down to 0. And on its way up, you want to catch it around that 20 to 50 range and then just continue it all the way up to 80 or 100. Someone had a question? Oh, I thought I heard the hand thing. All right, cool. All righty. Again, quick overview of the indicators. Really simple stuff. It just takes for you to have a good eye to be able to spot, spot opportunities and make plays. But I think time is an important factor. The more time you spend, the better you'll get with these indicators. That's how it works for me. All right. Now that we talked about the indicators, let's talk about the SPY. So the SPY is one of the most important stocks. I love to trade the SPY because especially if you're an option trader, the SPY has option contracts that expire every single day. So for people who like to day trade or like to make fast money, the SPY is one of the best ways to make fast money. You have to know what you're doing. I'm not going to say it's the easiest thing, but if you're scalping or day trading, the SPY is a good place to start. You can also use the SPX. I guess it just depends on your preference. I really like the SPY. Some people like the SPX, but I've grown to just chart the SPY and use the SPY. But if you don't know what the SPY is basically the S&P 500. It is a basket of 500 stock of the best 500 stocks. So you got Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Berkshire, all the great companies that you hear, great stuff about. They're going to be in this ETF, and they're going to be in this ETF in small percentages. So if you want to buy, you're just like, I don't know what to buy. I don't want to buy a singular stock. You can buy the SPY. And for people who trade, who actually trade, they're trying to beat the SPY every year. You're doing good if your returns 5-10 years down the road are charting better than the S&P. So that's why I like the stock. And it's also going to come up a few times in our session because it's a good reference. And I think last week we talked a little bit more about reference trading, to where you can compare the SPY to whatever stock you're trading, especially if you're trading a top 10 stock in the S&P. Which a top 10 stock will be Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Meta, Broadcom, so on and so forth, Tesla, a few of the top dogs. So, but yeah, let's talk about where do I think the SPY is going now. Okay, so last week we had, and I'm going to go over the news right after this. Normally I go over the news first, but again, since it's just me, I wanted to cover the important stuff first, and then we can look at news in a second. But last week we had interest rates being cut for the first time, and again, I think it's about 4 years. And we honestly, I thought it was going to be a 0.25 cut. We actually got a 0.5, which is nice, which shows that we could be getting more 0.5s, because I think that what the feds are trying to do is, when they cut, they don't want to keep adjusting the numbers up and down, right? They don't want to do a 0.25 and then a 0.5 and then go back down to a 0.25 and then go up to a 0.75, when you can just do 0.5s all across the board. So I think that's what we're going to be getting until we start to get to the end of that cut cycle, which I think will be deep into 2025. Then we should start to see, okay, a 0.5 rate cut, probably too much. We start to see those 0.25s start to happen. And then once we see the 0.25 start to happen, that's going to signal to us that, okay, rate cuts are almost done. We need to start paying attention to, looking closer at, real estate, stocks, so on and so forth, because the cut cycle will be coming to a close at that point. But all right, the SPY is at 568. It reached all-time highs last week at around 573, 574. Right now, the SPY is making a bull flag. I talked about this last week in the Discord. I want to say Wednesday. We talked about this in the Discord. A bull flag is simple. A bull flag is just a strong move up, consolidation, or a pullback, and then another pop out to the upside. So right now, the SPY is at 568. It started this bull flag around, we can call it 510, just to do some simple math. So that means that this move that it's making, the SPY could end up around 600 to 610 if we can continue this bull flag to the upside, which we already broke our resistance line. We've been testing this line. This was a hard line to break. You can see that we tested this line a few times back in July. We started to test it again in August. That stretched all the way into September, and we rejected. And then we tested it one more time mid-September, and we finally got that breakthrough. So it looks like we may revisit that 560, which would be a good buying opportunity. Again, I think the SPY is going for 600 to 610. Another thing is that this is an election year, and they're not going to let the market fail in an election year, because normally going into an election year, if the market is down, whatever side of the aisle is holding the presidency, then you automatically walk in with I won't say it's a guaranteed loss, but it's a bad look for people, because they've been losing money in the market, and there's trillions in the market. So this year is green. It's probably going to be green going into November. And then what we need to pay attention to in November with the SPY is with whoever wins on either side, Republican or Democrat, certain stocks are going to pop in the SPY. So if Democrats win, it looks like we're going to get alternative energy stocks popping, solar. You may see some EVs, things of that nature. And then if we have the Republican side win, then we may see like ammo, which is another stock. You may see industrials, things of that nature, banks. You may see those pop, oil, so on and so forth. So that's what the SPY is for. Again, a good reference trade, but you can also directly trade it. And I honestly, if you don't own one share of any company, any stocks at all, first thing I would try to do is get one share of the SPY, and then just build everything else on top of that. But again, 600 to 610 is where I see this going. Is it going to go there tomorrow? No. It's going to be a fight to get there, but the chart is setting up nicely to put us on course to get there. Right now, it's pretty hot. We can look at the RSI and see that it's at about 62. Before that pullback, it was at almost 64 out of 70. So a cool down was needed, but everyone was excited from the news of the rate cut. We also got that MACD crossover to the upside, which was really nice. I remember when we were looking at it before it crossed over. So a lot of money being made right here just on this little stretch to put us in a buy trend. And then we look at the stochastics. That stochastics is at 88. We can call that 90 out of 100. So if it wanted to pop up a little bit more, it could, but it looks like it needs to reset. And a good reset point for the stochastics is going to be around 80. And if it goes deeper down to 50, that's even an even better buy point for us to go long. And if it pulls all the way back down to 0, then that's leap territory for my option people. So if you trade options, you're looking for leaps. You want to buy some options that expire a ways away. I think that low stochastic situations is a good place to start looking at leaps for a SPY. Again, you still need to check your other indicators. I don't ever solely trade off one indicator, but I think that would be a good place to start. Any questions about the SPY? Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Silence is a thumbs up. Let's look at the news really quick. Let's see, what do we have? Home. How do I get to the news again? Oh yeah, products, calendar, economic. So we're looking at the economic calendar, and when you look at the economic calendar, what you want to pay attention to is anything that says Feds. If you see FED or FOMC, which is the Fed's meetings, that you need to pay attention to that, because those meetings right now, especially in a high inflationary environment, they're always going to drive the market. So, for instance, a lot of people pay attention to Jerome Powell. Lately, before we were getting the rate cuts, he was like the stock market Grim Reaper. Every time he spoke, people were just like, "Yep, market is going down." The market would go down an hour before he spoke in anticipation, which that was another opportunity to make some money from option people. But now that we've had our first rate cut, it looks like Jerome Powell, instead of being the stock market Grim Reaper, he could be the stock market angel. Every time you speak, the market could go up. So this is going to be interesting to see how it works moving forward. And so when you're looking at the economic calendar, as long as you don't see anything that says Jerome Powell, I'll add that in there too, or Feds or FOMC, then it should be good for the most part. A lot of the pullbacks have come around those three subjects, so that's what I like to pay attention to. Now, let's see what we have for this week. So this week, Monday, we don't have anything major. I do have my high importance indicator turned on, so that means that it's not saying that we don't have any reports at all, but it's saying that we don't have any major reports. Like if I turn it off, we have a whole bunch of other stuff. We do have some Fed speakers, but it's not Jerome Powell, right? These are different Fed speakers, but their words aren't as heavy as Jerome Powell because he's pretty much the leader of them all, and whatever he say goes for the most part. But we can go ahead and turn that off. So Monday, no major reports. Tuesday, Wednesday, no major reports. Thursday, we do have a GDP growth rate, and guess what? Like I said, Fed Chair Powell, that's Jerome Powell speaking, which everybody's going to be paying attention to this because last week he cut rates. This week, who knows what he's going to say? Again, everybody's on pins and needles depending on how he actually says things. It's kind of weird. If you've never watched one of his speeches, I recommend watching it and just listening to what he's saying. Someone raised their hand. Question? Well, I think it was by mistake. Okay, cool. But yeah, Jerome Powell is speaking Thursday. So watch out for that. And then we have the GDP growth rate. This is an important just to see how the US is doing. I don't think it's going to have as much impact as Jerome Powell, but we'll see on Thursday. And then Friday, we do have a few inflation reports that are going to be coming out. But right now, I mean, inflation has been going down. That's why the Feds are okay with doing the rate cuts. So I want to see what happens with those inflation numbers after the rate cuts. Is inflation going to go back up? Is it going to keep going down? That's where we're going to be paying attention to. Any questions about any of this news? Again, not a.
I'm sorry. Is this more broad? It's just not like particular by just the stock. It's just the economic news, basically.
Yeah. It's economic news that can impact the SPY, which the SPY is going to impact a lot of the stock, the majority of the stock market. If the SPY is red, that means that majority of the stocks that are in the SPY are going to be red as well. That makes sense. So it's not news on one stock, but it's like market-wide news. Does that help me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All righty. Any other questions? Let me check the chat.
Do you want to hear something kind of funny? It won't take long. I swear.
Go ahead, Jessica.
My neighbor is like, she's from New Jersey. I know that's, but like she's from New Jersey and she's afraid that the groundhogs are going to attack her. Like, yeah, she literally she was talking to me about it the other day. She's like, I'm so scared. She's like, I think they might attack me or something.
Why? What did she
Oh
do?
my God.
Based on the economy?
Like, no, it has nothing to do with what you were just talking about, Ladarius. I'm just talking about like groundhogs, like
Oh,
the
well,
animals that live outside. She's afraid they're going to attack her.
well, have
What did
her.
she do?
She may need to focus on something else. Have her join next Sunday. And
Okay,
hopefully,
sorry.
no, it's fine. Hopefully, Stocks can get her mind off of groundhogs, and we can pay.
That's
Maybe we
true.
can.
I'll have to tell her to join us.
Yeah, we can find an animal stock or something for groundhog stock to get her mind off that. I appreciate that. Gave me a second to stop talking and catch my breath, so I appreciate that. Um, let's see. Should we put that into perspective when dealing with stocks? As far as the economic calendar, is that what you're asking, David?
Yeah.
Yeah. You should always check the economic calendar. You don't have to check it like every day. It's not one of those things,
Yeah.
but checking it on Sundays is kind of like one of my rituals. Every Sunday, I need to know what reports are coming out because when I first started trading, I didn't check the economic calendar, and I would jump into a trade. Let's say I don't know, in $1,000 trade, a report will come out on Wednesday morning that I didn't know about, and now my whole trade is blown just because I didn't pay attention to a printed calendar. So it's always good to just check it once a week. My day is Sunday. I like to check it when the market is not running, but you don't have to, you don't have to check it every day and hold on to it. But it is definitely important to know when Jerome Powell or the Feds are going to be talking about interest rate cuts, things that deal with real estate, things that deal with inflation. Cool?
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Microsoft. Clear this chart up. So, anytime you look at any of my charts and you see a whole bunch of blue lines, it's because we've been charting it out a lot.
Mm.
I'm going to take some of these off so we can have a bare chart and we can talk about Microsoft. I think that Microsoft is getting in position to run, but it first needs to break. It first needs to actually hold a certain level, and it is forming a nice bull pattern. So we're looking at Microsoft on the weekly. Right now it's above the 20-day moving average. I mean the 20-week moving average. And again, these moving averages are set up in the chronological order that we need. We got the 20, 50, 100, and 200. They're already stacked. So now we have, and I can zoom in a little bit more. Now we have a green candle right above our 20. We should be moving to the upside, and it looks like we may run into some issues around this 448, 450 price range right here. It looks like this is going to be a quick ceiling for us. If we can break this, then we can start to test all-time highs around 467, 468, and then continue on and break to the upside. So right now we're making a double bottom. The double bottom is coming off of this 50-day moving average, and the double bottom is just literally a W-shaped pattern. So if you hear me say double bottom, just think about a W. If you hear me say double top, just think about the letter M. So you got a W, which is bullish. You have an M, which is bearish, meaning that the stock is going to go down. So right now you can see that it came down here. So this is the first leg of the W. It bounced, it came up in the middle, it came down again right here, and it's bouncing out to the upside. And the key thing about these double top and double bottoms is that they like to end where they started, right? So if it started in this area, that means it's going to end in that area, right? Came down, went up in the middle, came down, and it's trying to make its way back up to where it started to break and run higher. Also, our indicators are looking pretty nice along. Let me reset my chart. Along with that pattern. So we check the RSI. It is at 56. Again, I like 45 to 55 pointing up. 56, 1 point above it. I mean, we'll take it. It's not 65, 70. So we still have space if it decides to run. And then also when you look at that MACD, we do have a pending MACD crossover to the upside. And a pending MACD crossover to the upside means that if these two lines cross, so right now, we're still in a confirmed downtrend on the weekly because we have red on top. Anytime you have red on top, again, that means that selling pressure is being applied. So the selling pressure was being applied. It looks like the buying pressure is starting to take over. and the buying pressure is trying to make its way. You can see it's making this sharp V. It's trying to make its way to take over and become the dominant trend. So once it takes over and become the dominant trend, we're going to be in a confirmed uptrend, and that's when you're going to see Microsoft take off. So I think that again, that also that coincides with what I said about the SPY, right? I told you that we'll be talking about references and how they correlate with each other. So Microsoft is top between the first and third stock when it comes to the SPY. So you have Apple, Nvidia, and Microsoft. Those three are changing places left and right. But when you have a stock that high up and that has that much impact, it's going to weigh on the SPY and vice versa. So if the SPY goes to 600, 610, it's going to carry Microsoft up with it. So Microsoft being in this position while the SPY is in that position is great. That's a double confirmation. Again, buying trend is what we're fishing for right here, which looks good. It's making its way. And then when you look at the stochastics, again, you want that stochastics to be low. It's like a loaded spring, right? It's loaded at the bottom and it's starting to expand and stretch out. It broke past that 20. Now it's at 27. Our next target is 50. After 50, we need 80. And then we want 100. You'll also notice that it also is forming a double bottom here. Came down to around 5 or 6, went up, came down, and it's going to try to make its way back up to the top at 100 to make that same W-shaped pattern. So right now, Microsoft on the weekly looks to be in a great position. The thing is that we have to pay attention to the time frame. So it's on the weekly. This means that this is not going to happen tomorrow, right? Let's say if Microsoft goes for 475, 500, according to what we see on the weekly, that means that these candles take at least 5 business days to form. So what I'm thinking is that the next 3-4 weeks, we could see the SPY. We could see Microsoft test all-time highs, and it could happen sooner. We had a week, what was that? Not last week, but the week before last, Microsoft was at 401 and it shot all the way up to 432. So that's a $30 gain in 5 days for Microsoft. Last week, we only had maybe $3 to $6 gain. We had a wick that went a little bit higher, but then it pulled back. So again, we could get a nice green candle like this. I don't think we will. I think that we'll walk our way up to this resistance, and then once we break, we'll move higher. But Microsoft is in a good position to keep moving up in the midterm, in my opinion. Do we have any questions? And again, if you have any stocks that you want us to chart out, I said us. I'm thinking like Mark is here. If you have any stocks that you want me to chart out, make sure you put the ticker in the chat. So when that time comes, I can look at that for you. Someone had a question?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, David.
Considering the buying the options, do we look at the volume in respective to the open interest,
Yeah.
or we have to look at the open interest to the volume? Which one? Because when I did some research, they said, oh, you have to consider the open interest to the volume, while others were saying the volume to the open interest. Because right now I see an open interest for next week, Friday, for Microsoft. So the volume is the highest so far is 5,000, and the open interest is 3,000.
Yeah. So the what you said at first is correct. The open interest is what honestly, I would pay attention to both, especially if I'm comparing contracts. You're talking about options, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if I'm comparing contracts, then I'm paying attention to the open interest and volume per contract in comparison. So if I'm looking, for instance, if I'm looking at a 440 call, and I'm comparing it to a 450 call, then I can do the comparison. Or I'll take it back. We can make it even simpler. If I'm doing a 440 call that expires Friday, versus a 440 call that expires the next Friday, then that's when the comparison open interest volume will come into play. But I think the open interest, so I'll look at it in that way. But I think the open interest to me comes before volume. Volume is just the amount of hands the contract is switching between.
Oh, okay. I get it. Thank you.
Perfect. No problem. Any other questions about Microsoft?
I do have a question.
Sure.
So you're saying, and you want to take it over. How do you know confirming that it is going to have the W form? When do you know? Because you're saying it's going to take a couple of days. So with your candlesticks, that's weekly. Is that's a weekly candlestick, or is that like how are you measuring it? That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah. So this is these are weekly candlesticks. So each one takes a week to form. So the way that I'm measuring it is that, and let me get you the article for a double bottom. 1 second. Double bottom. Yeah, let me get the Investopedia. Here we are. We'll look at this in 2 seconds. But yeah, so it's forming this W-shaped pattern. Volume is also another thing. You also want to pay attention to, like, how do I know that it's actually going to complete that side of the W?
Yes.
I don't think that anyone would ever be 100% sure when they're looking at stocks, but the indicators are all in conjunction. They're all telling me that this is going to move up. So when you look at the VRVP, right? We talked about the VRVP, and this tells you where the buys and sells are, right? And
Okay.
if we just look at the data window and we hover over this right here, right? If we hover over this price point at about 440, how many
Okay.
buys or sales are sitting at 440 when we look in this area on the VRVP, right? We look there, we see we got 9 million up versus 6 million down, right? So it's
Yeah.
more people waiting to buy at this
Yeah.
level. We go up,
Okay.
yeah. So if we go up, you got 9 million versus 5 million, more people waiting to buy at 450. You go up to 455, 5 million to 4 million, still more people until you get, I want to say, up here. Yeah, and it's now you have more down volume than up volume. So that's one way, but then you also have a low stochastics, which is good.
Okay.
MACD is climbing. I'm sorry, RSI is climbing. MACD crossover.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help? I know it's a lot to look at, but that's the more thumbs up and green checks you can have for your indicators, the more sure you can be about the direction.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Great questions. Any other questions about Microsoft?
So Ladarius, would you do a swing, or would you day trade this?
Oh, no, I would swing this for sure.
Swing that.
Yeah, this is a comfortable swing. The
30
reason why
day?
oh, go ahead.
30-day or 2 month?
I think it depends on risk tolerance, but 30-day you could get away with that because again, we just got above this 20 MA and it could hold. It looks like we have a strong level of support right below it. Like if I put my line here, you can see we have some support here, here, and it's holding above that. So if we get another green candle to the upside, we're out of being under the 20 and we're going to be moving up. So you know me, I would give more time because this could continue to run up into, again, 475, 500. But if you're just looking for something to swing, get in and out, I think that, yeah, a 30-day could work as well. You just may need to pull the profit sooner before that time decay kick in on your contract.
Oh, thanks.
No problem. Yeah, another great question. Any more questions on Microsoft? All righty. And again, don't forget Microsoft. I want to say they own like 10% of OpenAI, and OpenAI is looking for, I want to say, a valuation of around 150 billion. So the more that we get this AI boom and we see AI is added into different products, you got the iPhone 16 that just came out and was just announced. You have, Chat GPT, of course, that has its iterations and making things easier for people. You got to remember Microsoft has a hand in that as well. So they're not doing it for no reason. So Microsoft is that was a smart move, but I think that it's going to pay dividends down the road for the stock for sure. All right, the double bottom really quick. This is a This is an Investopedia article. If you want to do some homework and studying, I recommend getting familiar with the double bottom. It is extremely simple. One of the most simple patterns. If you're like, I want to get into patterns, start with a double bottom, start with a double top. You can also start with flags. You can do a bull flag and a bear flag. Matter of fact, that's homework. 4 patterns: double bottom, double top, bear flag, bull flag. Easiest patterns. You'll see them all the time. You'll see them on a lot of different time frames. And the reason why I say those patterns is because they build into other patterns. So when you start to get into cup and handles, when you start to get into inverted head and shoulders, some of these patterns are made up of these basic patterns, these foundational patterns, in my opinion. But a double bottom, can I zoom in on this a little bit? Let me see. No, it's not gonna let me. But a double bottom, you can see that in this picture, they have it to where they have this green line here for basically where it started at. It went down to the bottom, came up in the middle, went down to the bottom again, and then it ended where it started in this area. Started here, ended there. So buying opportunities were all, I mean, you could have bought anywhere here, but nice buying opportunities would have been on the second tap on that floor. This is the first tap. Second tap is where I would buy. I think this is the safest place. So when you're looking at that double bottom, that's another good thing. You're looking at that double bottom. You don't want to buy before you can fully figure out what's being made, because this could go down. It could come up in the middle and then just keep going all the way down, right? If it goes down, comes up in the middle, comes down, you need that pop back up, especially if it pops back up over the middle to where you can see, okay, it's just going to stretch itself back up to finish that W. You want to play this little stretch on that side for safety. You don't want to play it before it's fully formed. You want to let it form about 70–80% of the way and then just play this arm out to the top side. That's the safest way to play. But yeah, check the article out if you have any questions. Extremely simple. It's really informative, but you'll see these patterns a lot. And yeah, that's a better picture of what it looks like. Down, up, down, back up to where it started, and it moves. All right, let's keep it moving. Meta. Man, I feel great about this one because I've been talking about this one for a minute. If you were in the early, if you're in these sessions in January, February of this year, I've been saying that Meta was going to 600. The reason why I said that Meta is going to 600 is because, one, this is an election year. Two, when it comes to funds from campaigns for politicians, where are they going to put the money in? They're going to put the money into social media now. The reason why they're going to put the money into social media is because that's where the people's attention is going to be. From for the last few months, everything about Trump and Kamala, we're seeing on social media. I mean, you may see a few things in commercials on YouTube or on TV or whatever, but if you're on social media, you're going to hear either people arguing about something, or you're going to see reports from news companies about who's doing what, how it's happening, and so on and so forth. So all of that generates revenue and attention for Meta. So again, Meta has been doing great all year, and I still think, honestly, valuation wise, Meta should be a $700 to $725 company if it was valued as high as some of these other top 10 companies in the SPY. But right now, again, I think that Meta is on sale. Meta also pays a dividend. It's not that they just started paying dividends, not that big of a dividend, but it pays 50 cents per share. It's nothing, of course, when you're looking at a $500 stock, but if we're thinking 10, 15 years down the line, that dividend is going to increase. The price of the stock is going to increase. And I don't think Meta is going anywhere. Meta has 3.5 billion users across all platforms. You got Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp being the top dogs. So damn near half the planet is using something that Meta owns. And then the company is undervalued. So, I mean, easy, no-brainer of a stock to just buy and hold. And we've been waiting. We put this line here. When we put this line in July, we've been waiting for a break at about 530 for a while. You can see that we had a couple tests here in March. We had a test in April. we thought that we had ran away right here in July, and then it pulled us all the way back down. We built up some momentum and tested again in August. We thought that we were going again because we had 2 pops. It took us down, and then now we finally came out to the top side, and we're at about 560. What you'll also notice is that it's making a bull flag as well. Again, bull flag, extremely simple. Strong move up into consolidation, a slight pullback, and a catapult out to the upside. Again, up, down, up, and we were waiting for it to break that that resistance that was at 530 for a while. So right now it looks like Meta is hot. Do I recommend buying Meta right now? I can't give you direct financial advice. What I would do is wait for Meta to cool down. It just exploded from the 530s into the 560s. I would wait for Meta to cool down if I'm looking to swing trade it. If I'm looking to hold it long term, I would not mind buying Meta at 560. Again, I think it's a long term wise, it should be a $700 stock. Easily, I think this year we're going to see it at about 600. But long term, if you want to start to go ahead and start collecting those dividends, I think getting in at 561 for the long term wouldn't be bad. And then if we get another pullback to the 530s that we struggle so hard to break through, that'll be another buy point, right? So if you, I don't know, bought tomorrow at 560, it pulls back to 530, I would be buying again at 530. I don't think that we're going to see 500 again unless something catastrophic happens. We will have to have, I don't even want to talk about what we would have to have for that to happen, but in my opinion, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And again, a lot of money is flowing into Meta right now. So just wanted to put this on a watch list for everyone to pay attention to because it's one of those I told you so moments at the beginning of the year. People thought I was crazy when Meta was down here at what? This is January. Yeah, Meta was 377 in January. And I'm saying Meta is going to be 600. People thought I was crazy until Meta did this, and it shot up from 396 all the way to almost 500 at 483. So nice stock to hold, is running, and add that to your watch list. Now, on the weekly, something special is happening. So on the weekly, we have a 64 RSI, pretty high, kind of hot. I mean, but Meta has been running. And then we do have the pendant MACD crossover is what I've been paying attention to. Actually, it's already crossed over a little bit. We got the green, but the MACD is crossing over. And again, the MACD crossing over to the upside is telling us that we're going into a buy trend. We were in the sell trend for a while because we had the selling pressure on top. The selling pressure was being applied to the stock. And now we're going into our buy trend because we just had that MACD crossover. We got a little bit of green on that indicator, and that means that we could see some more money to the upside. So we have space on the RSI. MACD is crossing over to the upside, and then the stochastics RSI is only at 50 out of 100. Again, I still hold on to what I say because this is on the weekly. This is not on the daily. So over time, you add 3 or 4 of these weekly candles, so month, 2 months down the road, 4 to 8 candles, we could see this at about 600 if we don't go into a high level of consolidation. But it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. And the more news we get about rate cuts, the better Meta is going to perform. Let's see. Questions in the chat. That's some pull up. Yep. That is a spike. Yeah, 8 months. Yeah, crazy run. Just wait until the next election. Yep. Next election. I mean, if we're still in the social media phase, same thing. Social media is going to be taken off. And then, I mean, you also have the US government doing their thing with TikTok. They're not allowing TikTok to take over and replace Instagram. So you have that happening as well. And yeah, David's saying it's going to be $1,000. Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, Meta is what? I don't even think Meta is valued at 2 trillion yet. You have Microsoft, you have Apple at about 3 trillion, but Meta, again, in some form or fashion, if you have social media, Meta has a role or it has a space to take up on your device. And I think that, yeah, Meta could be $1,000 easily. Do I think that Meta would be $1,000 one day? For sure. For sure. I remember when Meta was like $160. So yeah, and David, yeah, it's at 1.4. Yeah, 1.4 trillion. You got companies that are twice as much as Meta. So yeah, Meta, great stock, just like Microsoft, and pays a pretty decent dividend. I think that will increase over time. Any questions about Meta? Questions, comments, concerns on Meta? All righty, let's keep it moving. Last one. Again, if you all have any stocks, place them in the chat. If not, we could close us. We could close this out a little early. But oh, reset this chart. Okay. NVIDIA, talk of the town. NVIDIA has been moving crazy to the upside in a good way for majority of the year, but now it is starting to slow down. And if you've been in these sessions before, I'm not going to go through my whole rant again, but NVIDIA's earnings are starting to shrink. And if they don't do something soon, we could see a miss on earnings. And if we get a miss on earnings for NVIDIA, we could get a hole blown in the price. Honestly, in my opinion, I think NVIDIA fair value right now is about $80 per share. It is at 116. Dangerous place to be. I think that NVIDIA still has some more in the tank to the upside, up to about 125 is what I've been saying. But at 125, what needs to happen is it needs to cross that threshold of 130. If NVIDIA doesn't break 130 again for the rest of the year, that may be the bubble popping, and we could see NVIDIA go down again. I think fair value is about $80. We could see NVIDIA 70 bucks potentially as well, but that's all to be seen with how management is dictating what they're doing with the profits and what new innovations that they're going to make. And then also NVIDIA is heavy when it comes to materials. So if we go into I don't know, we get into if we get into a conflict that impacts Taiwan, then we could see NVIDIA, also Taiwan Semiconductor, pull back as well, because for NVIDIA to keep making the money that it's making, it has to provide services and chips. And if they don't have the material for chips, there's a constraint on chip supplies, then NVIDIA is going to be pulling back as well. So I wanted to add this one to the list. People argue with me on social media all the time about NVIDIA because I say that they said that NVIDIA is going to 200, and I'm just like, no, it is not going to 200. NVIDIA going to 200 puts NVIDIA being worth about $5 or $6 trillion as a company, when you have Microsoft and Apple, who's been sitting at $3 trillion for about 2 years. And NVIDIA at the beginning of the year was at what? 500. No. NVIDIA at the beginning of the year wasn't at 3 trillion. It's about 1 trillion, about 900 million, I want to say. But I think that the party, the crazy moves to the upside for NVIDIA may be over. But again, if it breaks 130 and holds, I'll change my opinion. But it's doing exactly what I thought it would do by not moving up with the rest of the market moving up. Last week, crazy week for the market. Anything that wasn't NVIDIA was going up, and you can see that NVIDIA was barely moving. Barely. If we look at the week, look at this. If we look at this is the candle for the week, it barely moved. It maybe moved $1.75, it looks like. Barely moved on a week. That's dangerous. It needs to actually keep moving up. If not, again, the bubble's going to pop, because NVIDIA, honestly, if you look at earnings, again, I'm not going to go through the whole spiel that I did before. It's recorded, but the earnings don't justify a $3 trillion valuation. The earnings justify a $1 trillion valuation. So anybody that's touching NVIDIA, be careful. Any questions on NVIDIA?
Yeah, so the earnings already came out and you have a video on it.
You said the earnings came out and what now?
I said, you said you had touched base on the earnings as far as in the NVIDIA.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did a whole breakdown on NVIDIA's earnings and how they're shrinking. Like if we just look at them at a glance, you can see that here we got 19%, 11%, which is great. Next earnings, we got 12% and 8%, which is still great, but it's less. This earnings here, we got 9% and 5%, which is, again, great. Still shrinking, though. Last earnings, we got 5% and 4%. So we went from 29%, 20%, 19%, 11, all the way down to 5 and 4%. And people are telling me that NVIDIA can pretty much double. And it's like, nah. But yeah, if you want that video, Mia, are you in the, how did you find us? I can, whatever way you came in contact with.
Through Meetup.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I should have time after this to send that link to that video over to you if you want to see the whole breakdown. But great question. Any other questions about NVIDIA? Alrighty, I take silence as a thumbs up. Cool. All right. That's all I have on my watch list for now. I do update my watch list throughout the week, depending on what I'm looking at. Again, last week we were looking at TMDX. If you don't know what TMDX is, we've been talking about this one for a while. Great stock, great company. They're doing some genius things. They're making world-saving technology, and the stock has been going crazy. We've been watching NVIDIA. I said NVIDIA. We've been watching Transmedics, TMDX, for what, a year and a half, 2 years, and it's been performing great. Really good stock. Again, really easy to follow if you're into like hospitals and things of that nature. So this one performed great for us last week. Just as a review, another stock, if you want to look at something, is Spotify. I've been talking about Spotify for a while. The last session we talked about Spotify hitting all-time highs because Spotify was testing this 340, and it has been testing this 340 since July, and it never gave up. Testing, and then it broke through and gave us some money to the upside, testing all-time highs at 365. Honestly, I still think Spotify has more in the tank, and Spotify currently is starting to eat Apple Music's lunch, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think Spotify is going to continue to run. Also, Spotify is pretty high on the weekly when it comes to the RSI. Again, it just broke all-time highs. It's never been this high before. But then you also have the MACD preparing to cross over to the upside for another pop. So if we get another pop, that's going to be crazy, and that should set us around 395, 400 before it starts to trade sideways and cool off. And if that pop happens again, is it possible? Do we have enough space? Yeah. Stochastics is at what, 47? It maxes out at 100. So if it decides to go, it really can go. We're just going to see some crazy RSI numbers. And what I mean by crazy is Spotify at one point had an 86 RSI, which is wild. Again, 70 is overbought. 86 is just ridiculous. Like, that's just gluttony at that point. But you see what happened at 86. Someone bought the stock when the RSI was at 86, and it came slamming all the way down to 66. A lot of money being lost right there. So you got to be careful when it comes to that. Unless you just plan on holding the stock for a long time, then that doesn't really bother you. You'll buy the dip. All right. Let's see what we have in the chat. I see there's a few stocks in here. I'll break these down. And then if anyone wants to stay for the demo of the Discord, I can show you what it looks like, what we have to offer. If you have any questions at that time, we can go over that. Again, the links for our YouTube channel and the Launchpass is in the chat at the top, so you can grab those links if you need it. And then once we close this session out, you still may want to grab those links because I don't know how else you'll be able to get them once we close it out. All right, first stock. So we have three. We got VST, XPNG, PENG, and SAND. All right, VST. Nice. This is a nice chart. Go to the 1 day. Ooh. Okay. So it looks like we may see a pullback. It looks like it has resistance right here. You can see back in May, it ran hot. It tested, let me bring the chart up. It tested 107, 108 back here in May, went down. It made an inverted, it's an ugly inverted head and shoulders, but it did it, sending it right back up to 107 or 108. It looks like it's going to make all-time highs, but this 16% spike, you have to ask yourself this question. Once you see a spike like this, is it going to do it again, right? Or are people going to take profit? At some point, people are going to take profit at this, and the level that I would watch for when they take profit is right here. About 102 to 100 is where I will watch it at, and the reason why I will watch that as the first pullback is because we have some consolidation here in this area where it pulled back. Also, that's where a drop off on the VRVP is starting to happen, to where you start to get more sales happening. So we stay in the 103 and up, you can see that we have a lot of blue on the nodes. A lot of blue is saying that there's a lot of people willing to buy at these levels. But as soon as you go below where we place that blue line at, you go down to 102, you go down to 101, you can see that we start to get some thicker yellow nodes, and then it takes us all the way back down to 95. So 95 is worst case scenario of a pullback. And the first level that I would be checking for a pullback is about 102. Could it keep going higher? Sure. But an 87 RSI is crazy on the 4 hour. So you got to watch that. Also, the MACD is crossed over to the upside with a crazy, that is a crazy spike. And then the stochastic is at 100. Clean at 100. So again, stochastic is your momentum. That means that the momentum at this point should be slowed, and that stochastic needs to reset. So once it resets, it cools off, it brings itself back. I don't know if it's going to come back down to 0, but we could see 50 or 20. And once it decides to pull back, I think that's when it's going to pull back down to about 102. And then we can see, we can check the other indicators to see where it goes from there. The same story looks like it's happening on the day. Maxed out stochastics at 100, pretty high RSI at 78. MACD already crossed over to the upside, same story. And then if we look at the weekly, this is a nice looking chart, because this is a textbook bull flag, right? Strong move up, pull back, strong move back up to the upside. So long term, is this going to continue to go? Probably so. Yeah, I think this one's going to continue to go, but it went up too fast, and I think that we're going to either get one, consolidation, or two, we're going to get a pullback. The RSI on the weekly is at 67. Excuse me, is at 67. We could see it over rev a little bit and get between 70 to 75 on the RSI. Reason why I'm saying that is because if you check that MACD, that is extremely close to a MACD crossover. And you know, when those two lines swap, you get that MACD crossover, that next candle is going to be a nice size candle. So again, we could see some over revving on the weekly after a pullback for a continuation to the upside. And then the stochastics, which is at 47, tells us that we have some space. So if it decides to explode, we got enough space on the stochastics to take it, and we can run it up to the next all-time high. So right now, all-time high is what, 108. We could see all-time high, you know, continue to go 115, 120, so on and so forth. But we'll just have to watch and see what happens. But it looks good for a long run on the weekly. Questions?
Thanks.
Cool. Next stock, X. What is it? What's the ticker for? XPEV. There we go. E. This one, danger, danger, danger. Okay. Sheesh. I remember when this stock was going crazy at like 50 bucks. All right. Chinese EV companies. Where do I see them going? So China has killed its own stock market because China is communist, so they don't really care too much about, they're not capitalistic, they're communist, so they just care about doing whatever they want to do with the money from the companies. So you have to be careful with that. But also, this company, again, they're doing well as far as like how they make EVs, but they also have the government involved. Anytime you have the government involved in the way that the government is involved with China's EV sector, the growth can be tapered. So you
Okay.
just want to be careful. But we see some consolidation here around $7 to, let me zoom in here. You got some consolidation in this area to where it's been floating around the bottom of what, 675 and a high of about $10. So you have a $4 swing that's bouncing around in here. If this is going to break to the upside, it needs to break and hold above this $10 mark. But there's a lot of sales on the VRVP. But if it spikes and get above that, the next level that I would be watching would be 12. And then after that, I would be looking at 13. So you got 10, 12, and 13 to the upside. They also have earnings that could set them up for a spike. But this is going to be news based. I would pay attention to the news in China and see what are they saying. Do they have any good incentives or anything to boost their EV sector? And if they do, this stock is going to reward you handsomely. So I would keep an eye out for that. But that's what I see for the chart on the daily. Let's see on the weekly. Yeah, this could be a large double bottom on the weekly. So again, W-shaped pattern. It was at 33. We can actually start it here at 23. Went down, consolidated at 8, came up in the middle, went down, consolidated at the same price. It could be coming back to the upside. If it breaks above 23, this could go up to where do we have it at? This could go up to, what's the top side? 34 actually. Could go back up to this side to make that double bottom play out. So down, up in the middle, down, and it needs to break this 23. Once it breaks this 23, we have a decent runway that could take us back up to 34. So keep an eye on China and what they're doing for their economy, because it could help.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
No problem. Last stock. This is what, gold? Sandstorm gold. Yep. All right. So it looks like this one has been consolidating for a second, which is not terrible. It's just trading sideways. Does this pay dividends? Normally gold stock. Yep, pays dividend. Yeah, normally gold pays a dividend. So is this a monthly or quarterly? Yeah, this looks like it is quarterly, but nice. It actually has a nice setup for a move to the upside. This here is a nice bull flag, strong move up, pullback and consolidation down to about $6 right here. And it is now testing the top side of this bull flag. Honestly, I would feel comfortable if it broke above the wicks that it kept making at about 625. And if it does, then we can see this pop up to about $7, $8 on that move. I would be careful because on the daily, it has a 65 RSI. Once it's at 70, it could be maxed out, and then you could see a pullback. Also, the stochastics is at 67. So that next move to the upside could max it out at about 100 before you start to see a pullback.
Okay.
And I'll check the weekly. And yeah, pretty much the same thing. Space on the RSI to the upside, consolidation. It looks like it wants to pop. I mean, best case scenario, honestly, looks right here at about $8. So yeah, it could go to $8 because that's where we have a lot of resistance that at from before. We have it here, 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 and here. But it looks like after consolidation, we could be going back up to about $8 for a move. It may take some time. So I would again just keep watching gold. The actual gold. What you could do to reference trade this is find a gold ETF
Okay.
and look at the gold ETF to see how it's moving and then compare it to this stock. I think
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. All right. Don't they need gold to make chips? I think gold. I don't know if gold is a large part in the chips. I'm not really sure about chip components. I wouldn't doubt it with how expensive the chips are, that they may have gold and other rare metals in them. Computer chips. Yeah, so not sure. That's a great question though. For research, I could look into that for you, but off the top of my head, I do not know. All right. Any other questions?
They said that gold is just used to print the circuit boards.
You said to set up what now?
They said gold is used to print some electronics, like the circuit boards and computer chips. That's what they use to print it.
Gotcha. Okay, so gold is in those. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I wasn't sure and didn't want to say out of just not knowing. Cool. All right. So let me go ahead and stop the recording. It looks like that's all that we have. What time is it? We're at 7:38, so we're stopping a little early. That is okay because Mark is not here. Stop sharing my screen and stop this recording. This recording will be posted